Hello everyone, welcome to Axmawian Media Network, and today we will have short discussion interview with VOR. VOR is military analyst on military and foreign affairs. Welcome VOR.
Good day. How are you doing?
Great. Thank you for coming again.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Cool. So today we're gonna have a discussion, kind of short interview. What is happening on the ground? The Ethiopia-Eritrea against Tigray war. So my first question will be like, there is a lot of propaganda there, and since you are one of the impartial and logical analysis on the conflict, can you tell us what is really happening on the ground right now?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, there has been some withdrawals within the vicinity of Shia Robot and towards Kombolcha and Desse. And one of the prime reasons for that is obviously some of the deployments of in the use of drones that have become more active in the conflict zone. Now, if you remember, at first the the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and/or some of its intelligence agencies were deploying Iranian drones, the Mojaher 6 drone, and when they found out fairly quickly that was a fairly ineffective drone. It did not maintain very good data connections. The thermal imaging optics, the forward-looking infrared on it was not of very high quality. But then they also were able to obtain, meaning the intelligence agencies of Ethiopia, of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, were able to obtain both Chinese Wing Loon and Turkish TB2 drones as well. And our understanding is the TB2 is being flown predominantly at night, and there could be actual Turkish drone operators on the ground, both in the Afar region and in near Addis Ababa itself as well. And they're deploying the TB2 at night, and then obviously the wing loons are mostly coming out during the day. And again, as I talked about before in previous videos, as the Tigrayan Defense Forces get closer to that center of power, they were probably going to be subjected to these drone strikes, and we've seen that occur. Now, what is probably going to happen is the Tigrayan Defense Forces are most likely are going to deploy more of an asymmetrical strategy in dealing with the Ethiopian National Defense Forces going forward.
Okay, great. How many foreign actors, like beside the Eritrean regime, is Isaias Afwerki is like fully involved from the beginning, but how many foreign actors involved on this conflict, and what is their intention? I mean, it's kind of two questions, but how many of them they involving, and what is their intention?
Well, there's a multitude of foreign actors, and obviously there's the reason behind that is probably resource based and just strategic partnerships, given the animosity that exists between some nation states and the United States. So, for instance, you have the Russian Federation, who has contractors on the ground. Uh, as of now, those contractors have been utilized to maintain some of the heavier equipment, specifically some of the self-propelled artillery systems. We know there was a contract with a PMC to maintain some of those systems. Obviously, there's a relationship with China and the Abiy Ahmed regime in terms of providing wing loon drones, armored fighting vehicles, and a host of other systems. But recently, the wing loon drone has really proved a fairly pivotal issue right now in terms of it is being deployed against the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And then obviously you have the Turks playing their hand as well, and obviously the Turks have issues with Egypt. And again, it's the Game of Thrones, so to speak, and that is why these nation states get into these sorts of conflicts. And right now, again, you have the Turks, you have the Chinese, and you have the Russians really providing that base of support for the Ethiopian National Defense Force. In all probability, this could very well be over by now, if not for the support of those external actors. Meaning we would have probably have seen a catastrophic military defeat of the ENDF, and in all likelihood, it would have been over for not that external support.
Yeah, and it was like some report about the UAE, the United Arab
Oh, I'm
Emirates.
sorry. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. There's been over 100 flights from the UAE into Addis and supplying weapons. And again, they're also operating the Wing Loon drone inside of Ethiopia as well.
Interesting. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates, Turkish, Iran, China, and Russia, and those are like backing the Abiy Ahmed Ethiopia and Isaias Afwerki Eritrea indirectly because they're working together. So why the United States and the United Nations, UN, and the European Union, you stay idle, not taking any action on this conflict? What do you
Yeah,
think? I mean, this is not beyond a little bit.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think again, I think the internal issues that are going on inside of the United States right now, compounding that is ongoing conflicts in other places on the planet, such as obviously you have the Taiwan Straits, you have a significant buildup of Russian forces along the border of Ukraine, and those issues right now are taking precedence over the conflict that's occurring inside of Ethiopia.
Got you. Yeah, and I mean, probably like Iran and Russia, and they using to sell their weapons, and the bad guys selling to the bad dictatorship regime like Isaias and Abiy. I'm just wondering, like, why the UN is still stay idle on that. But yeah, this is beyond the military analysis. So, my next question is like the Tigrayan across the country, Ethiopia, there is a lot of reports already by Amnesty International confirm arresting in concentration camps. But still, the United Nations and the international community not taking any steps to stop it. And are they ignoring it, like what happening for the Tigrayan ethnicity, for the Tigrayan population, or just because of like UN is corrupted or the misunderstanding? What do you think on that? Like, there is no any meaningful act on this.
Yeah, I don't think they're completely ignoring it. I think the United Nations and actually individuals on the ground have in Ethiopia have brought up what was going on. What I think is going on as well is the Abiy regime is actually doing a pretty good job in terms of cracking down on information leaving the country. So obviously he is working very closely with a very closed regime in Eritrea under Isaias Afwerki. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the same practices that we are seeing take place inside of Eritrea, inside of North Korea, those same practices are now raising their ugly head inside of Ethiopia.
That makes sense. And there is, as you know, because you try to verify and do logical analysis for both to the Western and to the diaspora of Ethiopian and Tigrayan, but there's so many propaganda going on there. So, what do you see on the propaganda side on the Ethiopian government and even on the TDF side? And are they like misleading the world sometimes using all these medias because there is no communication in Tigray and everywhere they go is like hiding information on the war. So do you think like they misleading Abiy is like doing uh, capable of like misleading the information to the international community by making a lot of propaganda?
Yeah, especially in terms of how the conflict is going. We've seen that they'll take a very small element of truth of something that may be occurring and then add on to that just complete farcical information that comes out and recently I think we've seen that in terms of at one point a few days ago according to various sources the ENDF was rolling into Kombolcha, and we know that that's not the case as of right now. Will that change in the future? Again, very difficult to say. The strategy in terms of what the TDF is doing is evolving as the nature of the conflict evolves, and that's just the way war is.
Okay, and beside like TDF, there is another force, probably like OLA. We don't talk much. And what do you think on this? Recently, are they making any? I was watching some of your channels, so you mentioned about this group as well. So, are they making any difference, or what do you think on that on the OLA?
Yeah, I think they're watching what's happening. I think they are unsure themselves. I think if they were to see, I think what the OLA is concerned with is if for any reason the Tigrayan Defense Forces goes back into Tigray proper, and the OLA is stuck fighting the Ethiopian National Defense Forces on its own, that could be problematic for it. And I think it's watching and biding its time, and it's still operating. There's definite operations ongoing throughout the Oromia region. There's very large areas of the Oromia region currently under control of the OLA. Right now, though, it was just a matter for the ENDF to try and stabilize the situation near Debrecen and Shia Robot and areas such as that.
Okay, and recently there is so many like misleading propaganda. So since audience they want to find out what is the reality, what is the status of Kombolcha and Dese and right now? Is this under TDF or
No,
under?
the Tigrayan Defense Forces are still in control of Kombolcha and Dese.
Okay, okay,
And am I understanding the main strong points right now are probably within the most fortified areas for the TDF are probably is once you get past Dese and Kombolcha is Waldea.
okay, yeah, and this war seems like back and forth between because as we mentioned, there's so many actors and deployed like operators from Turkish and Russia, but it could be even like ended shortly if there is no foreign interference there. But how long do you think it will take if it is going to end by war victory? How long do you think it's gonna take this war?
Yeah, I know that the following analysis is probably going to be tough to hear, but I unfortunately for those involved in the conflict, I think this could go on for years.
For years, yeah.
Yeah.
So for the time being, since you're closely watching, so who do you think like winning? Like at this moment, who do you think is winning on the war?
So
What is the power balance?
right now the initiative is still the Tigrayan Defense Forces. They occupy still significant amounts of territory in the Amhara region. Their mobilization efficiency has been much greater than what the ENDF has been able to do after its defeats around Kobo, Alamata, Korem, and then obviously Dese and Kombolcha. So it probably right now has a greater fighting capacity in terms of manpower after these defeats. And again, I know the ENDF has a greater pool of manpower to draw upon. But if you're not prepared for mobilization and you don't have the proper training facilities to facilitate the deployment and training of those forces, you just can't do it. I mean, obviously you can conscript and press people into service, but if they have no training, no weapons, and no capacity, no leadership, it's a mute point.
I got you. And I think you already mentioned, but just to clarify, if you by chance you know, what is it like? There is so many interests probably, but the main thing is you think it's money, like how Russia or Turkish and this Iran and I mean they selling weapons, of course. Is it like the main reason they involving? It's not like good for the whole for Ethiopia, not only just like for Tigray, because they I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're not buying it for free. It's for money. But this is the main reason for them is because the government pays them money. They're doing this, and why they're involving too much on this poor country, selling all this like high tech technology and operating there.
Well, yeah, it's both money and it's again it's of strategic concern. Just several years ago, and probably even sooner than that, the Ethiopia was siding with the United States. Was a fairly reasonable and close ally, especially in terms of anti-jihadi activity in Somalia and wherever. And we were partnered with the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, meaning we, the United States. And obviously that has now changed with the civil war that is occurring. And with that change, because of some of the atrocities that were committed, the United States has backed out of some of those relationships, or most of those relationships, with the ENDF. So that has created a vacuum that Russia, China, and Eritrea, and some other nation states, Iran, has started to fill.
Yeah, so they're taking advantage now. Okay, so uh, since like you mentioned, it's gonna be a years probably because the balance of this foreign interference there, but the war could be even like ended shortly. And do you think like the United States or the UN or the European Union, they will do something to help this, or it's just gonna be by the war? They just still they will continue to stay idle because it seems like it's going to against of their own benefit as well. So do you think one is the time they will stand up and they will stop this, or just watching aside?
Only if awareness, with awareness comes knowledge, possibly. But as long as it's becoming more and more of a closed society, and again, you see the implementation of that by the Abiy Ahmed regime. You see some rather significant propaganda. You see obviously again the closing down of media outlets that have the ability to report. Again,
Hmm.
if you're not reporting completely just one side of the equation,
Hmm.
then you're shut down, or at worst incarcerated.
That makes sense. Okay. So recently, the Ethiopian government was claiming a lot of success on the war, and besides the propaganda, there is something pretty sure like the drone attacks. And do you have any visual confirmation how these Turkey drones or the Winglong China's drones, they how this what they damage exactly? Did they get any like TDF convoy, or do you have any confirmation about those?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen the at least the TB2 drone. It was in its deployment in Libya and its deployment in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. And
Hmm.
you can go onto YouTube and just type in Turkish drones over Armenia, and you can clearly see the quality of the optics, of the precision guided munitions, and the casualties that were sustained by the Armenian forces. Now, with that being said, there's not as many being deployed as there were in the Armenian Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But be
Hmm.
that as it may, they are still there. And if you have a column of forces that are moving, and if we look back at some of the videos where we're seeing the some of the close concentration of the Tigrayan defense forces at times, if they still operated with that method of very close column movement, then yeah, obviously the TB2 drones would have been very effective.
Okay. And the Chinese wing, I know it can fly a little longer, but the effectiveness is like TBT is probably one of the advanced. So there's like three airports, possibly like right now they're using the Ethiopian government to attack these drones, like the Debre and Addis and Samara. The war was a little stronger if you notice on the Afar region, Samara, like on the Afar region, Kifra and Bati. So do you think like they're using the drone deployment ground control is in Samara or in the Debre for the Air Force and drones?
So I right now the most effective is obviously the drones, and one of the reasons why you're not seeing the TB2 drone
Uh-huh.
is the TB2 drone is the product of NATO support. Okay, the TB2 has Canadian optronics. Again, it's a Turkish drone, but many of the systems inside of that drone
Yeah.
are from NATO countries. It has Austrian engines,
Yes.
and obviously that's why it is so advanced. And then obviously when you see such as the Iranian drone being deployed, it doesn't have the same high quality Canadian optronics, different engines, different data links. So it's just not as effective. It's just not as high quality, and that's unfortunately kind of what you're seeing with the TB2. And that's probably why they're using it at night
Hmm.
and it's really a clandestine system at this point, because I don't think Turkey wants the international community to know that it is actively supporting the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and intelligence agencies with what is basically NATO equipment.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So there is so many actors involving in high advanced technologies for this very poor country. Doesn't even have like sustainable clean water. So since you have like really independent and impartial channel and both the Ethiopian diaspora, Tigrayan diaspora, and other Westerns as well follow your channel. So uh, what do you message for these people? Because at the end of the day, those countries, they just sell their own weapon and they don't really care like for the people. So what do you message? What do you wanna anything you wanna say for that for your viewers as well?
Well, I mean, given the situation on the ground, it's obviously if you just look at what the TDF and the Tigray Defense Forces, have been able to do against a much significant and larger power in the form of the Ethiopian federal government that existed,
Mhm.
and then you just take that into account, and then you also look at the fact that they're dealing with Eritrea as well. And then you throw in these external powers, China, a very, very powerful country, obviously the Turks, and it's really unfortunate for them. It really is.
It is, yeah. So I think we came to the end of our program, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you following Axma Media Network. And at the end, I'll give you any chance if you want to say anything about your channel or about this. You want to add anything? If you are, it's yours.
Yeah, no, I'll be posting another video here very soon, the daily video, and then obviously we're going to look at different strategies that will probably be implemented, and maybe some strategies that, in fact, should be implemented by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. Obviously, they're going to have to tackle this in a more of an asymmetrical way in terms of dealing with the drones and just some other methods to quite possibly win the day.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit more about the asymmetrical method? Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I know there is a propensity not to fight in cities at this point. It's been something that is kind of a sensitive subject. I
Yeah.
would say when you're facing and when you're in a total war, life or death struggle, and it really is, considering what happened during the occupation of the Tigray region,
Hmm.
you are going to have to employ strategies where it costs the enemy seriously. And unfortunately, the TDF is probably going to have to start fighting in the cities, fortifying cities, and making it very, very costly. And then continuing with its asymmetrical strategy of rear area operations and looking to bring down the economy.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is our end of program for today, and please share and subscribe the Axma Media Network, and share and subscribe military and foreign affairs channel hosted by VOR. Thank you. Until next time, have a good time.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.